Book 5 Chapter 1 Falma and Reproductive Function Experiment. It was the year 1147, month 5, when Falma returned from the sacred spring. Falma had completely forgotten, but after half a year after the opening of his first bath, another 5 were opened in the imperial city. The empress steadily ordered the construction of the other baths in honor of Falma as a reward for preventing the plague. He was invited to an open-air bath situated on a small hill at the outskirts of the imperial city. What spread out as far as the eye can see, the scene of pure white travertine terraces with calcareous deposits over the years. There were an abundance of hot springs welled up in the area, which got reflected in a hue of deep blue by the sunlight, created a graceful and magnificent sight. A large dome was installed to cover a part of the outdoor outcrop terraces in case of rain, with various indoor baths, establishing an all-weather hot spring. Somehow this feels like, as if it's Heracles Pamukale. From such a graceful sight, Falma is overwhelmed. Well now, Falma. It's a wonderful health resort. Soaking naked next to him is the Empress of the Saint Fleuve, displaying off her stunning limbs today, as she boasts about the new hot spring. If anything, she's an eye candy. Yes, this majestic hot spring is full of natural beauty. The maid behind the Empress wrap their bodies, while any eyes are gathered upon Falma. Falma happens to be the only male there, which is quite uncomfortable. What is the reason why I have to take a bath with Her Majesty again? There must also be a cause why she wanted to try to mix bathing every time. Are the 3 hot spring baths that were built previous also had mixed bathing? Falma is Gollum swallowing his spit. Where should he be looking at? His behavior is becoming more suspicious. For the cause, the Empress stated that it was not related to the last situation in some sense, but she had even more radical surprise this time around in store for him. The contrast between the deep blue water and the white outcrop terraces is vivid and beautiful. It's a superb view, Your Majesty. He heard a familiar voice. I mean, this is a predicament. Yes, Falma wasn't the only one the Empress's invitation extended to. Ellen as well. Last time Falma's reaction to the hot spring was weak, so the Empress was motivated to reveal her desire to obtain the compliment to satisfy her. So this is the reason why she called me. Please leave me out of this, tilde. It's sexual harassment, tilde. Tyska, tilde. The glasses are getting foggy soon. Maybe so. Isn't it getting cloudy on purpose? Ellen is constantly worried about her glasses getting fogged up. You're funny, Eleanor. The Empress smiles at Ellen. Oh dear, I'm honored for the compliment. I received a praise from Your Majesty. I wonder if she praised you just now. Falma bends his neck over, in pondering. Ellen is completely enjoying the hot spring because she doesn't care much about Falma's current existence. A matter for you to know, Eleanor, your chest needs the restraint. Kya, Your Majesty. For you to look at it. The content is tightly packed and losing its sensation. For that, let's rub it a little. Unlike Ellen, who received the plump bust that seems to have been blessed by the goddess. Comparing side by side with this with well-shaped beautiful breasts, the Empress's breasts have a modest sense in opposition. The Empress is apparently rubbing her breasts with her hands. Kya. Your Majesty, I'm innocent. It won't decrease anymore, so it's good. There's no way it'd decrease. Ellen sensed it was getting a bit dangerous at this moment and stood up as Falma quickly turned away, hoping it was another girl this time. He was hoping Lot was in this mixed bath. This one too. In addition to having the skin exposed in public after being born. Lot said she was shy, on top of being fearful in taking a bath with the Empress, so she was back into the corner and accepting the invitation. While not being confident in her growing body, she wondered if she should be seen by anyone while embracing her own body. Lot lifted up her hair and revealed her nape with an extraordinary sex appeal. Lot-chan, weren't you by yourself since a while ago? Come over here. That's right. Won't Falma be displeased? The Empress was teasing her and her mouth is grinning. That's impossible. Lot's embarrassment was out of control, where Falma could tell that it was not normal for her. How about Charlotte's breast growth so far? NN? Don't we need to confirm? Please forgive me, Your Majesty. I'll excuse myself first. Laud panicked. Then she dashed out of the bath in a hurry. Oh man. What are these people doing? It's intoxicating to my eyes, and poisonous to my ears. Falma was on the verge of madness since he could not see directly in any direction. Falma, why are you looking away and turning red for? The Empress was in a good mood and teasing Falma. This somehow is causing me trouble. From within his heart, Falma groaned. Really now, you're not good at this. Mixed bathing in hot springs like this, I'm not used to it. Speaking of hot springs, about that. What kind of spring was the sacred spring? The Empress lowered her voice as if she remembered it, and she inquired Falma. The story about him discovered the legendary sacred spring, he reported to the Empress and Solomon but didn't reveal the location, and passed it on to Ellen. Even though it's a difficult location for him to get, it was almost impossible for humans, as he pondered about it as well. About reaching to the other side of the sacred spring, did you manage to get to it? Yes, for the time being. Falma was bad at lying. Could you see the heavenly world? I'm sorry to say, but Your Majesty can enter the other side. You don't say it so coldly. He easily refused her, so the Empress puffed up her cheeks. It was the same for me. Even though I entered it, I immediately returned to this world. As the Empress was disappointed, well, in thoughts, Falma muddied his statements. I can't explain in great detail, however it was a place like a room. It wouldn't be understood even if it was revealed to them as Falma's workplace in the past. Why don't you take a picture? Don't you use modernized tools? Well, oh my, if I have a chance next time. He don't think the laboratory in another world should be shown in the photo. Beside the photos, I wish I had brought over my PC and smartphone. Since it would be submerged in the sacred spring immediately after bringing it over, it should be fine when placing them in a plastic bag before coming back. As for the reagents that Falma brought out from the laboratory in another world, they appeared to become treasures when they entered into this world. They would not be used immediately until he had confirmed their usages without any issues. While strictly stored in the de Medici's family's freezer warehouse, accessing them between his busy periods, Falma would properly conduct tests little by little. Hey Falma. The Empress stared at Falma with a serious expression this time. Yes. Are you not planning on going completely over there? That is, in that different world, there were no Falma's whereabouts. If he helped Kusaria and he didn't die from overwork in the first place, the result of the ego that made up Falma's reincarnation ceased to exist, which he concluded. What will happen to me if that's the case? Can I go back to that time? Or since I died in the previous life, then I help Yakutani to completely heal, will the past diverges and still live in a completely different world? In his case, what kind of influence would it have on this world and the original world? It wouldn't appear to be the same Falma. Falma was unfortunately filled with questions as the Empress was staring at him. Oh my, I don't think I can stop what you have decided, but, if you must go, try to slow down in this place as much possible before leaving. Your Majesty's request has been accepted. Falma couldn't say anything, except looking down upon himself. This was how she met him, and her hope was to beg him as many times as it would take. This hot topic is over. As a personal discussion, what's going on with your marriage partner? There are no reports at all about them. Well, what do you mean? Falma's face was tightened up. He didn't want to touch on it, as it was too much of a delicate problem. Didn't Bruno decide who you were to be with? That's being lenient, isn't it? I've heard that a marriage is brought to you like a mountain. 3. What is the meaning of a marriage being like a mountain? Who said this? Falma's ears were attentive. It appeared that Falma was the only one who thought he had no such discussion. It is said that you should push forward being a pharmacist as your job. I wonder if your marriage will be early, I wonder. This time, as the issue of inheritance of the family was always present, the marriage issues for aristocratic sons were decided among the discussions between the parents. There could be no love in the marriage. Bruno could have stopped the idea that Falma needed a bride, as the Empress reminded Falma. You are also at a good marriageable age. Is that so? Isn't it a bit too early? It is said that the marriageable age of aristocrats starts from 13 years old. There's no certain age the boys have to get married, but aside from that, the Empress seemed to desire the rush for his marriage. My brother hasn't got married yet, and beside from my brother, your brother is your brother, and the younger brother is the younger brother. If you don't have a remarkable partner for yourself, I'll take care of it. Be grateful. I'll find a special beauty who is both talented and special. How is that? HII. That's a problem. Wah wah wah, I hope you're letting me help you soon. Falma dismisses it by displaying a smile to pass thing by. It's not a laughing matter. It's nice to say good morning to your wife, and have a child. It is inevitable that your child will have extraordinary divine power and the child will be a treasure of the empire. That's right, now I'm in trouble. Generally, I have to decide on a marriage partner at the age of 12, and I can't take responsibility for the other party yet. As for Falma's situation, it's not about getting married right now. There are a lot of untouched issues, how long this Falma will exist, and he doesn't know if he can continue to possess this boy called Falma. It may be a situation unique to the world where there's a short life expectancy, where a young Falma is having a child, since it was unthinkable for former Japanese. He wants to think things through after calming down a bit. Even so, the Empress is also in front of him. One wife is the principle, not written, in the imperial laws. You should consider in marrying 2 or 3 main wives. I overlook it, since TT also guarantees your family establishment. At least one of them will be angry. Next time, make it a decree and not hope about it. Just in case Falma disappears from entering and exiting from Sacred Spring due to an unexpected situation, he needs to leave as many offspring as possible that contain the blood of the medicine god. The Empress states straightforwardly. This person, as expected only of the Empress, to talk about it, in getting married in order to leave offspring. Falma feels depressed. Did the Empress sense Falma's feelings? When it comes to ensuring that offspring are left behind, it's not about the decision of imperial aristocrat. It's a duty. I have acknowledged your Majesty's order, but I doubt that I am a perfect human being in terms of biology. It may be a body that cannot leave offspring. Even if my future wife is pregnant with my child, the mother is also at risk for her life. Trying to leave offsprings without considering the risks, Falma believed it was irresponsible. Not only he will hurt the other women, but he will also be playing with the life of a child. It is only when one has a romantic feeling and respects the other person, one should not want to have a family. This is Falma's belief. In the past, there have been cases where the guardian deity had left offsprings. Now all following generations are cut off. Is that so? Then a child can be achieved. Is divine power inherited by them? There is a high probability that it will be inherited. That's why I mentioned so. When both parents with excellent divine power producing a child, the chance is said to be excellent. But I'm sure you'll feel pressure to be forced into this. How about Eleanor? Pressing on, the Empress looks into Falma's face from a close distance. Ellen also has strong divine power and her family is qualified, as she is an excellent divine art user. The Empress's good impression on her. Miss Bonfoy, that's a great selection. She's young, and so on. It's a match. The person's name behind him appeared. While not being crazy and talking about it, Falma muddied his statements and talked in a whisper. Did you hear your name, Ellen? In such a place. Well, I hear you're on good terms with Charlotte, that is close to the marriageable age. The Empress acknowledged her reaction, in running off embarrassingly as favorably. She also snoops on his relationship with Lot. She appeared to be investigating. Your Majesty. Phew, well that's good. I'm looking forward to it. Next year, you can prospect a wife and at the latest marry a wife the year after next. Bring her around first. I desire to see her. The Empress turns around and grins, then gets out of the bath. If Falma stays in the empire with his wife, he was told that he would not be specifically restricted in accessing the sacred spring. Falma-kun. Ellen had been keeping a distance so as not to listen in on the Empress's discussion, and approached Falma as if she was swimming in the hot water. Ellen's face now is at point blank to his having a pale appearance. Since then, he had been discussing about his marriage, and he awared of Ellen. Something matter, Ellen. You're looking pale even though you're in a hot spring, so if the hot water is affecting you, you should get out. That's not it. Hey you. Your body is more transparent than before. If I'm not a mistake, is it because you went to Sacred Spring? Ellen became worried at last. How transparent is it? Is it more transparent as a normal person? Sorry, yeah? You don't have to be sensible, so just be honest. Not when you're in the room, but I think some people will notice when you go out. It's a noticeable issue if you look at it objectively. This is bad. Translucency in the sun is remarkable. If he goes in and out of the world a few more times, his existence itself may disappear. Such concerns pass through Falma's head. Before that, he will not be able to live in the imperial city any longer. This is a serious problem for Falma. The divine power tends to be too strong for others, but in Falma's case, it had reduced, and the divine power is inexhaustible as it will not decrease even a little. There is the method of closing the divine vein, but this is not so, since it's not likely to work on Falma. There are now more concerns. Falma enjoyed the hot spring and returned to the pharmacy to deal with his own transparency issue, and took the Empress's discussion very seriously. The discussion about the search for his prospective wife next year and marriage for the year after next, it is quite heavy to deal with. As he is worried about the subject. What are you worried about? Maud asks innocently since she doesn't know the circumstances. It's nothing. Nothing at all. In the first place, is it possible for me to conceive a child in such a state? Is it okay to leave my genes beyond that of human? It would be too dangerous. It may be far from affecting the child, it will have a negative effect on the mother's body. That's the reason why the marriage was slowed down. Although the body of the boy called Falma was possessed, the body's original nature had been lost. He may be a hybrid at that time. That's the current condition. Do you even want to investigate a part of male fertility for the time being? Even if he didn't intend to get married, he at least wants to know about his body. Even in his previous life, he did his own reproductive function test. The pharmacy's laboratory is not well equipped, and he wants to find out his minimum functions. About this, it appears I have to collect the semen myself to inspect it. There are various difficulties in inserting a needle into your own testicles, but fortunately, the familiar method is just around the corner. A natural way to collect it. It will be faster in collecting the semen with Ellen's and Lot's acetance, but his blank stare can't come out with an excuse. I don't know, but they will think about me. I can't just say, it's for my metamorphosis. Because it is a standard method to wait for 2 days before acted, he decided to wait until then. Falma closes the pharmacy in the evening and then begins to collect the semen in the laboratory on the 4th floor that day. He did this after he closed the store, excusing Ellen and Lot because it is uncomfortable when the part-time pharmacists were still downstairs. I'm going to do it. While in a slightly sage mode with a feeling of fainting, he proceeds with his own sample collection. It is an inspection that can be done under a microscope. First of all, suspend the sample in saline solution, and dilute the sample after the manual centrifugation. 5. For the time being, a simple semen test. Falma is examining under a microscope for semen volume, sperm concentration, total sperm count, forward movement rate, and total motility. I'm used to doing this, so it's a terrifyingly genius method. I wonder if the total number of sperms is this much. Falma is still a child, so the amount of semen is less than that of the adults. What is the sperm survival rate? The sperms that are still alive using the dye method with a pigment called eosin to observe, staining is performed to calculate sperm viability. For the rest, this process is not performed so as not to take more time. There seems to be no problem with survival rate or motility. Later, I want to find out what happens to the sperm's DNA. I went to space and it seems that it would have been damaged by space radiation. Hello, if there is such an environment where I can perform detailed genome analysis of sperm DNA. However, there is no such place, so there's no choice but to use a simple inspection method. Because there is no electricity, I can't do gel electrophoresis such as comet assay using electricity. How should it be done? That's why for his choice, he uses the halosperm test. When sperm is stained with a certain stain, a bluish-purple ring, the halo, appears around the sperm head. 7. For sperm with damaged DNA, there is no ring. After adding some dyeing steps, he checks the result. Almost all the sample is dyed. There seems to be no DNA fragmentation, so it's normal. He doesn't know what's going on at the base level, but the chromatin structure of the DNA itself is safe for the time being. He knew that something was wrong with his body, but it seems to be normal as far as it can be inspected for the time being, so Falma is relieved. After this, I can comprehend to some extent if I make a human-animal hybrid embryo. By preparing eggs of mammals such as mice, then fertilize with human sperm injected through intracytoplasmic sperm injection. ICSI, observing the development midway using such embryo approach. This method is another way in confirming the viability of fertility. By the way, fertilizing using human sperm and mouse eggs do not create a human mouse beast. Most of the time, the development stops halfway. In Japan, the intrauterine transplantation of embryos after fertilization was prohibited, and prior to that, it was only legal if there was a filed notification to perform a sperm function test. Well, can it be done at this time? I don't even have a mouse. It's time to go home for today. He doesn't like to collect semen again, so he fills the glass tube with the remaining sperm suspension and seal the opening with flame. He gently submerges it in liquid nitrogen to freeze. This amount is enough to carry out other experiments several times. Falma finished the work and opens the door of the laboratory and suddenly, I have to take off my lab coat before I leave the laboratory. He removes the front button of the long white coat he's wearing, and then takes it off. Tragedy occurs. In front of Falma, Lot screams, Kia. Falma-sama, please wear something underneath. Lot. Why are you looking down? Speaking about after collecting semen, he was so absorbed in trying to process the sample right away, he seemed to have forgotten to put on his pants. Well, what were you doing in such a fashion? Falma took off his long lab coat and exposed his lower body, as Lot returned to pick up items she had forgotten on the stairs. It was the worst situation to be in. That is for a different reason. Because, it's for my sperm. Because Falma thought that no one was there as he was so absorbed in the experiment he was in. He wore a long lab coat, so he didn't realize that his lower body wasn't uncomfortable. What I said about my sperm, where there are some other meanings in Aya. No matter what I say, the height of my grief. This composition was like a metamorphosis when showing off the lower body by taking off the coat. This person, acting like this, he could be pushed out in front of the military officer. Kia. I haven't seen anything. Lot doesn't look back, and she dashes back to the mansion. For a while from that day, Falma feels very awkward. And he says he can't meet with Lot.